right. Welcome everyone back to the Now at Night podcast. I'm really excited to be here with my co-host Nasra. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. My parents both are celebrating their birthdays in February, 65. A lot of like fun
Wonderful.
activities here. So yeah, we actually had a
Wonderful.
really good time. I went to the movies and saw, I forgot actually what it was. It was something my parents wanted to see, but we had a nice little time, kind of a joint celebration since their birthdays.
That's
They're only
fantastic.
5 days apart, which is kind of cool. So how are you doing?
And then Valentine, so they must be celebrating the entire month of February.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Month of love.
I've been doing great. It's been raining a lot here in San Diego, which I
Oh,
am not
really?
complaining. Yeah, I'm not
That's
complaining. I love
odd.
the rain. Yeah, I love the rain. So this is the
Yeah.
time I shine.
Oh, I love it.
And yeah, we've also been getting some interesting heat waves, which I call them heat waves. They're not really heat waves.
Interesting.
The temperature is just getting above 65. And for me, that's heat. So,
Exactly.
not complaining here. Everything is great. Taking care of
Excellent.
my friend's dog. So now I have three
Dogs,
dogs
yeah.
to handle. Yeah,
How many
so
dogs now? How many dogs are in your house?
three wiener dogs. So you
Three.
can
Oh
imagine,
my
yeah, the
gosh.
barking is nonstop.
Oh yeah. They love to sing, you know?
They do love to sing. They do love to spread the gospel of the wiener.
Oh, I love it. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, Valentine's Day is coming up and I think
mhm,
that's going to certainly frame our episode, kind of the
absolutely.
love episode.
The love
But
episode, the
really,
Service
really
Now Cupid
excited.
episode.
Yes, yes. I think that's definitely going to be the title right there.
Absolutely.
That's the plug. That's the plug.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, Kind of pivoting over into kind of the tech space a little bit. I've started to see some more talk around, of course, everything AI,
Mm-hmm.
everything deep seek, right? We're seeing so many
Yeah.
different changes happen, right, across different businesses and markets and sustainable areas.
Mm-hmm.
What's been your thoughts so far around kind of this whole all these different news outlets reporting, these different things around, maybe potentially cheaper areas that can help facilitate all these different AI, output methods. Curious to hear your
Absolutely.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we are following the trend of technology where
Yeah.
technology is supposed to evolve at a hyper speed rate every couple of years. So we're
Hmm.
definitely on track for that. And that is not really a significant change from all other parts of technology, I would say. It
Yeah.
seemed like internet was just basically formed one day. We kind of heard about it, and then suddenly everyone was using it, and that evolved into social media, and that evolved into AI. And AI is going to keep on evolving until we basically master it or master the technology behind it. So I'm not really surprised or shocked. There is
Yeah.
going to be a lot of competition coming up. And I
Absolutely.
think, yeah, our role as users and individuals who are in the security or AI space, I think that we should be actually excited about this time and just look out there what are the possibilities that are we are basically being presented with and how we can take advantage of them. So fear is something that goes on top of everyone's mind. I think we are all traumatized by movies that talk about AI taking over
Yeah. No,
and
that's a great
whatnot.
call out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Seriously.
yeah,
No,
but
I think that's a
honestly,
great call out.
I'm very excited. I think that the world is our oyster and we are just getting started. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see where AI is going to lead us to.
Well said. I think that's the framing that we need to position ourselves when we look at it from that other lens. I think we're
Hmm.
so focused on what the media pushes and what, all these different outlets are saying it's going to do or has done already or is vulnerable, right? I think
Hmm.
there's a huge, impactful global potential role that AI can play when transforming, like, let's say, for example, cancer in children.
Hmm.
I can't remember the exact statistic, but I was reading an article the other day, and I believe it was over two or 300,000 children, between the ages of 0 to up to 19 are diagnosed with cancer.
Oh,
And just to imagine if AI can now help treat and diagnose those preventative measures, you know, and
yeah,
I
that's
think that is going to be a
a big
huge
thing. Yeah,
noteworthy success, right,
absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
humanity. So to your point, Asar, I think we need to kind of reframe it and
Hmm.
think about all the possibilities that we thought were impossible. We
Absolutely.
might be able to help use AI as an enormous potential for redefining healthcare and many other areas that are applicable, right?
Absolutely.
Pediatrics. So, yeah, very much very much tied and tuned into that space. So I wanted to share that, on today's episode, knowing that, of course, we want to keep things, balanced and always thinking about people and how we can help each other and just kind of communicate where, people are starting to put their focus in, but also sharing the love, right?
Absolutely.
We need to
Absolutely.
help each other. And I think just leading with empathy is where we can all execute brilliantly and successfully together. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's just a really great topic and really well said from your side as well. Do
Absolutely.
you have any plans for Valentine's Day by chance? Or are you just staying
Uh,
inside, collecting cards and cookies and eating all the
well,
chocolate?
I'm doing
I mean, that's what
yoga.
I'll be
If
doing.
that, yeah, I'm gonna be doing a yoga class if that changes anything. I mean, oh yeah, I'm gonna be spending it with my dogs, sharing the
Love
love
it.
with them,
Yes,
and yeah,
likewise. Likewise
yeah,
here. Likewise
yeah.
here. Yeah. I think
Uh,
my parents are gonna have a dinner planned this weekend, or
nice,
on Friday. And then I think this weekend we'll probably have some look, I think we're gonna do like a paint, sip and wine
nice.
kind of thing, which, haven't done in a while. So I think that should
Yeah,
be fun. Those are always fun, right? You paint, you
yeah.
drink wine. Hopefully the picture looks the same, maybe not.
Yes. You'll
That's
find out the
definitely
next day.
definitely might be a plan that we have. So very much looking forward to that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it should be pretty good. But
Yeah.
very much looking forward to our next guests that will be coming
Yes.
up. And I would
This
love
is
to
our
have you.
first,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is
this
a
is the
big
first
one.
time this is the first time we actually kind of have this or two guests at the same time, which is the ServiceNow power couple, as you have called them, which I completely agree with you on that. Um, so I'm very excited with our conversation with them, which I guess this is a great segue into introducing our guests who are going to be Geeta and Eric. Both
Yeah.
are ServiceNow employees, and we're going to get to know how they have met, their relationships and or their relationship and how they basically navigate working and living together.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and move over there and we'll bring them on the show.
Perfect, let's do it. Okay, so let's introduce our guest for today. For today's episode, since the topic is going to be Valentine and love, we thought that it would be very appropriate to meet and get to know two of our best SCs who happen to be working both for ServiceNow. Both of them have what I believe met in ServiceNow, and we're gonna basically get to know the story behind how they met and how is it to be both living and working in ServiceNow and living together. So we have our guests for today who are Geeta. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Jhamb?
Jhamb, yeah, perfect.
Jhamb, perfect. And we also have Eric.
Hello.
Pleasure to be having you both on the podcast for today. Thank you so much for
Yes,
agreeing
welcome,
to meet
welcome,
with
welcome.
us.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
So let's jump right into it. How do you guys meet? How is the experience living and working for this, basically living together and working for the same company together, all of the good stuff. But let's start with the basics. How did you guys meet?
Sure. I'll start us off. So we both started at ServiceNow as SCs on the same team in 2017. And we first met in Portland, Maine, where our boss at the time was having the first team get together. So we met, and I was a little intimidated. I always joke about this because this was like a dream job for me, and I was like, "What is this young, pretty woman doing with my job? How did she get here so quickly? It took me years to get here." But at the time,
puppy love.
yeah, yeah. But at the time, I don't think either one of us would have ever fathomed ending up together
No.
at that time. But we were, it was a bunch of people that started that are most of which are all still here at the company. And we all met. We had a great time together in Portland at this offsite meeting, and we all really bonded very quickly as the formation of the first security SC team at
Mhm.
ServiceNow.
Yeah.
And then
And then, yeah, so I at the time lived in Toronto, and Eric lived in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh.
So yeah, we were
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was a
Difference.
there was definitely like a country difference, distance difference, but we didn't start dating in the beginning. Like we just like hung out, and we always got along as friends at like team events and stuff. And back in the day, when it was a lot smaller of a team, we used to have a lot more QBRs and conferences.
Pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
We were traveling when we were in Vegas for like 2 months out of the year. So we were getting together a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, I guess we just kept hitting it off like as friends, and then eventually we did value selling. We were in California, and I was like, oh, Eric looks cute, and the rest is history now.
That's one thing I definitely learned in value selling. That was my best thing I got out of it.
Well, you got the best prize out of value selling, if I can say that.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. And how was it, or what was the experience like when knowing that both of you work for the same company? I believe that kind of creates some sort of attention, whether are we doing anything that is against the rule? Are we okay with like all of that? Like all of that are stuff that potentially.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Apparently HR didn't have a policy before we happened on this type of thing. But I called my boss one day and I told him, sit down for a second. Keith and I are dating. And I remember he basically said, because he usually half listened to me when I call him anyway. So he said, wait, stop. What did you say? And I said, Geeta and I are dating. He said, Geeta and who are dating? And I go, Geeta and I are dating. And it took a while for it to sink in. And then eventually he said, okay, I'll leave out the expletive. But he said, just don't mess up my team. And I said, I promise I won't. And we contacted HR, and ServiceNow was really actually quite amazing for us. And thankfully, we moved at the speed that we did. In 2019, we actually got married. We started dating in early 2019. And ServiceNow got Geeta her visa so that she can move to the U.S. with me in Kentucky, changed her territories so that she could come and live with me. And they did that very quickly. And just before the pandemic hit. And if we hadn't been married in September 2019, she would have still been in Toronto come March of 2020. And
No way.
We may not be together today.
Oh, wow. So, wow, ServiceNow really pulled through.
Ooh, wow. ServiceNow coming out with the tissue boxes, everybody.
Yeah.
ServiceNow. If you're getting emotional, this
Cupid.
is now at night.
When we got
tears
engaged,
included.
No, it was amazing. And when we got engaged, like we were thinking, okay, September 2019 or March 2020. And we picked September 2019.
Oh my God.
Thank goodness.
Wow.
And Canada handled the pandemic a lot different than the US. And like, I don't know if you guys know, but like if you crossed into Canada, you had to like quarantine for like 2 weeks before you even saw.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
So she would have been stuck in her little condo in Toronto, as many of her friends were, for the next 2 years.
Oh my God.
So
You've
yeah,
just been on Zoom calls.
Yeah. I know.
yeah.
Oh no.
Thankfully, it wasn't a Zoom wedding.
Yeah, Zoom wedding. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
That is
very
awesome.
appreciative to ServiceNow for doing that, and then supporting us.
beautiful.
Then, as I always promised to get Geeta back closer to home, which is the reason that we landed in Buffalo. So we're as literally as close to Canada as I could get her, because we're on an island on the Niagara River. And they supported in changing our territories to support that as well.
Yeah, so we used to cover like Central when we were in Louisville, but then now like moving to New York State, they're like, okay, you can get Northeast kind of US. So they changed our patch for us and all of that. So yeah, they were fantastic.
Wow.
We have
honestly.
a lot of gratefulness for
A lot of
ServiceNow.
appreciation for what
Yeah.
ServiceNow did.
Absolutely.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Maybe they'll launch the Qubit workflow soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's a lot
AI.
of couples at ServiceNow. I think I know like 4 different, not in the same team like us, but I
Yeah.
know about 4 or 5 different couples who work at ServiceNow.
We joke that we're the original risk and security better together story.
That's right. You're
Yes.
the original cyber CISO hero play.
That's awesome.
All right.
That
You
is
unified
really-
security and risk to begin.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
I know what's up.
fantastic. So actually, let's take it a step back. Eric, you just mentioned that this was a dream job for you. So for
Yeah.
both of you, if you can just give me a synopsis on how did you both end up at ServiceNow?
I'll go first.
Yeah. So I started, like, I got an engineering degree, and then I started my career at Deloitte, where I
Okay.
worked in like cyber risk, PCI compliance. I did pen
Mhm.
testing. So I worked that job for about 5 years, and then I got like a cold LinkedIn message from somebody from Archer.
Okay.
And basically, they were like, we need a pre-sales person in Canada, and we saw your post, blah, blah, blah. And I never thought I wanted to do sales. But
Yeah.
when I talked to it was my manager at the time, but she wasn't my manager when she reached out to me. She said that, this is different than sales. You get to stay technical, but you get to, work with different customers. And so I was like, okay, I'll try to get this job. So I, went through a million interviews, did a couple demos for Archer, and then got into Archer and worked there for about 3.5 years, I believe. And
Okay.
then I got ServiceNow had this exact same scenario where they needed a Canadian resource
Yeah.
because they were expanding their security, and it wasn't really risk back then, it was more security.
Yeah.
But they were expanding their security business up in Canada. And I had known a couple people who had left Archer to move to ServiceNow. So they reached out to me and I got the job at ServiceNow September 2017.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you, prior to joining Archer and Deloitte, did you have like the risk experience, or was it something that you just eventually ended up at?
I eventually, so I actually, my background was like chemical engineering. So I had
Oh, wow.
no cyber experience. But
Yeah.
then back then it was like it would have been 2010 when I joined Deloitte.
Yeah.
And that was like, cyber was like very up and coming.
Mhm.
They didn't have a lot of resources who were like trained in that space. So it
Yeah.
was very much like get a bunch of like young kids out of college and like just throw them on projects. Like they had me pen testing stuff, and I was like, I don't know what this means. But then eventually, like I got my PCI certification, so my QSA. I got my CISSP while I was at Deloitte. So I learned the space, and working with a lot of different customers, I became a lot more technical.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And honestly, I feel like that's something that's very common in the cyber and risk. I want to say, I don't want to use the word BU. I feel like that's a very ServiceNow word. But in the worlds of risk and security, I feel like a lot of people just end up at it because they were at the right place at the right time. And it's one of those jobs that you can actually pick up while you're doing. Like I had a very similar background. I also came from like engineering. I used to do industrial engineering. And I was doing quality control. And for me, cybersecurity sounded a lot like quality control, but I'm doing it for computers. So that kind of was my way into cybersecurity. So I completely get you on that. How about you, Eric? How did you end up at ServiceNow?
Yeah, sure. So I was always in the service industry, bartending and serving into the early 2000s, and I was always into computers ever since I was a kid. And while I was serving, I started building and selling computers, and then I went to school and I got my Microsoft certs, and I got my certified Novell administrator certification. If anybody listening to this would ever remember what that is, and got into it, and then applied for a security operations position at Yum Brands in Louisville, Kentucky. That's the parent company for Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, KFC.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got in. Actually, I was doing security administration at first, and then I moved over into security operations. And I worked on a lot of big projects, particularly around network access control and implementing wired 802.1x. And that got me eventually a job with Cisco doing professional services
Mm.
to implement wired 802.1x and Cisco ICE and NAC. And I did that for a while before one of the gentlemen that hired me at Yum Brands had gone to IBM, and he contacted me about a SC job at IBM to sell a SIM product that I implemented at Yum Brands. And so I got the job at IBM and enjoyed that. And you mentioned, or I mentioned that it being a dream job in Louisville, Kentucky. I thought I was going to retire from a cubicle.
Yeah.
SCs were like rock stars to me.
Same here.
Like, right? Yeah, it didn't seem like something that could possibly be part of my life. Like I didn't think it was an obtainable thing. I'd never even entertained the idea. Um, so yeah, when was able to get on an IBM, and then I remember the one of my managers, actually one of the sales managers from IBM, left, went to ServiceNow, and then referred me over to ServiceNow. And I was like, my family was telling me stay with the big, IBM. It's going to be a trustworthy job. You're going to have it. Don't go for that risky tech position.
Yeah.
Thank God I did. Um, so yeah, and that's how I got into ServiceNow, and that's why I call it a dream job. It's just not something that I thought that could have been part of my path. I thought I was going to end up in middle management in a cube, and it brought me Geeta, it brought me everything else I have in my world today. So that's
That
why
is
I love it.
wonderful.
Love that. One thing
Yeah.
I wanted to call out there, I just resonate with what you said, right? It's not necessarily part of the journey, but Taco Bell, pizza place, right? We really can come from anywhere, and it might not necessarily be on our radar, but I think it's what we radiate inside and how we use those skills to promote kind of that inner spirituality within us. That's how we connect with these people that are on this call today, right? It's networking, it's learning new technologies, and just trying to be risky, but then assessing how to be secure in life. So I think well said from both of you. I really just wanted to say I really appreciate you both just being on this call. So thanks for both of you sharing that.
No.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I appreciate what you just said as well. And as you were saying that, I just realized too, since Yum Brands, my first corporate job, every other one of my positions has been word of mouth through people that I knew that
Wow.
I've had relationships
Yeah,
with. Every one of them. So yeah, you're
absolutely.
exactly right. It's all about building those relationships and
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. And anybody can do it, right? Anybody can do it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter your background, where you're coming from. We can make it happen. So it's good that we can network and pass those golden nuggets along. So really, really good to hear.
Absolutely. So one question that I have here is, how do you guys handle, I want to say, when you're working, especially that both of you are working together, kind of same team, not really. I mean, risk and security now are going to be similar or under the same umbrella. But how do you guys handle when work ends and when your personal life starts, given that both of you work for the same company, both of you could potentially even be working on the same project at times. So how do you kind of distinguish of this is where our persona at work ends and this is where our personal life starts?
I would say we're not great at that.
I feel like we've thoroughly blurred the lines on that at
Yeah.
this point. And for better or for worse, but not only do we have work, we both love ServiceNow, we love our positions. We also, again, have tons of relationships. Many of our
Yeah.
best friends are at ServiceNow.
Yeah.
So for us, there isn't. We're in and out of work, either one of us throughout the day. I don't feel like we're not. I don't feel like I'm working, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. That's not how we work. It's just ServiceNow is our business. That's what we take care of. We take care of it when we need to, and we make sure we make time for our personal lives as well. But I don't think we have distinct lines where they begin and end, really.
No, I mean, so we obviously we do demos and stuff during the day, and we don't see each other a lot. We'll try to have lunch together if we can, but I mean, just depending on meetings. I'll be up in the office, Eric will be working downstairs, and then we kind of connect a couple times during the day and sometimes talk about oh, what have you been done? How was your meeting? How did that demo go? Oh, this interesting question came up. Can I run it by you and get your feedback? And then I will say we try to keep dinner where we don't talk about work and stuff. So
True.
dinner at home, we don't talk about work. We'll talk more about personal stuff. We go out to dinner often and we keep that to be more personally us. But it is difficult, as Eric said, because it's this job, it's sometimes you're working 9 to 8 p.m. or sometimes you're not working, you're working 9 to 2 and you kind of have a free afternoon, and sometimes you have to do stuff on the weekends. So it's stuff kind of pops up. And then especially with travel too, it's less now, but when we first got married, they would send us on work trips together because they could save on the hotel room. So I felt like it was just oh, Geeta and Eric can run this conference because we're gonna save $1,000 on this hotel room.
Yeah.
So it is
Smart.
hard for us to, especially with such a similar job that we've talked about, like if one of us ever did leave to work somewhere else, like that would be weird for our relationship because we don't know how to manage that.
Yeah, it's
That
true.
actually leads me to my next question. Have you ever discussed that? How would that look like? Is ServiceNow basically the definition of you kind of being together? Like, how are you going to navigate that?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. We're getting to the point where, we're talking, at some point, one of us may take some time off, particularly as we're entertaining, possibly having children.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And at that point, one of us will certainly will go on leave for a while. We enjoy what we do, so we don't have any like immediate like reasons to be looking for something else, and we're in a really good spot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But eventually, yes, it may be nice for one of us to be a stay-at-home kind of person,
Mhm.
or to pursue something that's something more of a passion project. We've talked about
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure how we're going to handle it when that change comes.
Yeah, and I like Eric said, I don't see us like leaving to join another software company. Like I feel like
Yeah.
ServiceNow is like, if
Our
like
home.
this is the best place to work, I don't really need to go somewhere else for tech. But
Mhm.
yeah, it would be like one of us would stay and then like possibly like I've talked about like, oh, maybe I want to open up like a wine bar or something like
Aw.
that on like our town.
Love that. Sign me
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we haven't like
Yeah.
really thought about these things too much. We have like things ruminating, but we've
That's
never
very
been
fair.
like, it'll be a new journey for all of us when like we both don't work at ServiceNow or something and we're trying to talk about our day.
No, absolutely. I completely get that. And that's like, honestly, you brought something very common for, I feel, ServiceNow employees. We are very fortunate to be working for, in my opinion, the best place to work at. Like, I thoroughly do enjoy my job. I thoroughly do love ServiceNow. And I don't view it as a task or as a job or a stressful position that I'm at, thankfully. I mean, not good. But I genuinely like, I look forward to Monday sometimes because I'm like, actually, yeah, I have this going on this week and I'm going to be doing X and I'm going to be doing Y. And this is very exciting, that things that's coming up. So I completely get you on the fact that ServiceNow feels like home. ServiceNow feels like this is where I want to be at. So totally get
Yes.
why you are not even considering.
Well, and for me, covering financials, I've been fortunate enough to be with the same sales rep for 5 years, covering pretty much the same patch.
That's awesome.
And many of my deals are roughly 2 years in the making. So it's a business I feel like I've built with my partner over the last 5 years.
Absolutely.
So I've got my home here in service now, but it's also where my business lives, and that's how I think of it. And that's, I don't have any desire to sell my business right now,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way that I think about it, my work.
Yeah, well
So
said.
yeah,
It's a lifestyle more than a job.
right.
Yeah, like it
Truly.
comes with everything. Business,
Yeah.
like personally, because we do travel a lot on the job, so it seeps out of that 9 to 5 realm. A lot of jobs sit, so it's a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle we enjoy.
It affords us things like Geeta's giving training in Miami next week. I'm going to tag along so that I can get out of this
Nice.
storm in Buffalo, right? Things like that we're able to do together via service now through our business. It's not something that we plan on not having in our life anytime soon. So
Absolutely.
Love that. Well, on that note, speaking of travel, how are you guys planning any travel for this year? Any fun vacation spots or any fun spots that you like to do for traditions? Would love to hear or share if you have any fun spots, maybe for our listeners who are tuning in. If they're looking for some recommendations, we're all ears. Would love to hear if you have any plans for vacations for the power couple of the platform.
I don't know about power couple, but we are planning on we're talking to like a travel agent right now because sometimes I don't have enough time to like plan this stuff myself, but we're looking
Sure.
at Portugal, and we like doing like wine type tours. So our honeymoon was Greece, and we did like a wine tour
Beautiful.
of like Nemea, Santorini, Crete, and different kinds of grapes and things like that. So we're looking at Portugal and looking at doing like Porto, Lisbon, and like some other region I hadn't heard of until the travel agent brought it up. So that is our thing. But we'll do like weekends where we go to like the Finger Lakes, which are
Yes.
it's a wine region for those who are listening who don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's like an hour and a half away from where we live. And it's
Yeah.
on like 5 lakes that look like fingers, and they have really cool wine there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Oh,
we're
wow.
really close to Niagara on the Lake too. Yeah.
First time
It's
hearing
a-
this.
Yeah,
You
I'm
should definitely.
convinced.
It's a very up and
Yeah.
coming region. It's a lot
Oh,
of like
wow.
when we went to San Francisco a couple years ago, I brought up the Finger Lakes to like the sommelier, and he's like, that's the number one up and coming region where wine is still like affordable and it's
Nice.
amazing. So Finger Lakes is where people should go if they're looking for like a fun little trip. But Portugal is the one this year we're focusing on.
Yes.
That's awesome. Honestly, I love
Very
wine, so maybe there the next time you go.
You should come up to the Finger Lakes are only an hour and a half from here. So you fly into Rochester, and
Okay.
it's like 30 minutes from Rochester, the closest winery,
not bad.
and it's beautiful and it's so affordable. Like I don't
Nice.
know if you guys have done like Napa or something, but it's like $100 for a tasting. Here it's like
Mhm.
10. Like
Oh,
it's-
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Good plug. Okay.
I might be
10 is
moving.
better than 100. Especially in this
That is
economy.
fantastic. That is fantastic. So what's your favorite wine?
Good question.
geez. Our favorite.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, we typically go with big bold reds. We like burgundies.
Speaking the language.
Yes, but I mean, since I've moved up here, I've gotten reintroduced really to Rieslings. Really love the good Rieslings that come out of the Finger Lakes and Niagara on the Lake. But yeah, honestly, I there's nothing that we stick our nose up at other than maybe white Zinfandel.
Yeah. There's a grape here. It's a traditional French grape. It's called Cabernet Franc, and it's used in Bordeaux
Oh, yeah, I know
blends
that
and
one.
things like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people kind of like poo-poo to it being just itself as a wine, like 100% Cab
Mm.
Franc. But it's phenomenal. Like it's got like peppery notes, it's bold, and it's like usually pretty affordable because again, people only see it as a blending grape. But
Yeah.
that's a big thing here in the Finger Lakes
Yeah.
and Niagara on the Lake.
I
That
didn't even know what Cab Franc was before. I
Yeah.
came here. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we gotta check that out now. Well, if you're ever in San Diego, I know the spots.
Ooh.
We've
Oh,
been
yeah,
itching to
definitely.
get back up.
You'll know.
Yeah. Would love to come
Um,
back.
Lots.
Yes, please. Whenever you are in town, please just hit me up and I'll make sure to take you to the best wine places I have accumulated over the past 7 years.
Oh,
That'd be great.
amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
you've been to San Diego, have you?
No, just always go to San Francisco.
Yeah. No, San Diego's
Ooh.
better.
We gotta change that. We
Yep.
gotta change that.
Yeah, I got to change that. Record the next podcast there.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
So, on closing notes, do you guys have any advice for individuals who are kind of in the same boat that you are and or you were in, where they work at the same company or they are basically navigating relationships and work and how that basically looks like?
Oh, that's a tough one. Honey.
Yeah, I think like
Say,
for sure you need some sort of like system, like where do I work, like what do I feel comfortable boundary wise talking about work. Like I definitely have had like anxiety because I know more about Eric's job than I should, right, as a wife kind of, and he knows more about my job, so sometimes we get too involved in deals and situations at work and it causes unnecessary anxiety that I don't think needs to be there. So really just drawing those boundaries of like what are you comfortable talking about? What are you comfortable sharing? And then, it's great to work on certain things together, but we do try to not work on everything together. Like when I think about things outside of accounts, because then it's like we get too interwoven with work and personal and it's a little awkward.
That's true. Your business is your business and my business is my business. And I don't mean that like mind your business. I mean our actual businesses that we've built, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I fill her in on
Yeah.
things like that, but no more so than I would if she didn't work at ServiceNow, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of maintaining the friendly relationship when you are at work, in sense of, hey, I'm gonna kind of be, for the lack of better words, treating you as a colleague for now because you are my colleague. But yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I was going to say, just to add
No,
to that, I think I like what you both said, right? You kind of encourage each other to run your own business autonomously, but you reduce kind of those codependent habits around some of the cooperative areas and then the areas that could become more chaotic, right? So you have those healthy boundaries to give you that physical and emotional space that you both have to navigate, but you can come back to help, clarify and just help clear the air. So yeah, I think that's really well said, right? Kind of owning your space, but also being there, right, respectfully to help through those areas to navigate. So yeah, I love
I
it.
think you summarized it really well. And the thing too, it's like it's hard because we both started this job as like single individuals, right? And now
Right.
like we're a unit, but we still have our own jobs. So sometimes
Totally.
at work it gets weird because people will be like, "Oh, you're Eric's wife," and I'm like, "Well, I'm a lot Eric's wife, right? Like
Right.
I have my own life and I have my own patch, and I'm good at this job."
Yeah, it's like
too.
I'm still a person. Yeah, I'm still really cool and nerdy and know things. Yeah, absolutely. But it's good to have those established, technical roles, and then we have, our personal life relationship roles. So I think both of you have really shown that it's absolutely achievable. And I just really, really love to see that you have just shared this really incredible story with us. So Nasser, I'll pass it to you.
No, I just wanted to honestly thank you both, because I feel like the insight and your experience is not too specific, in sense of like only is going to be applicable to those who are working in the same company. I think this is a great advice to also be shared across people who don't work in the same company or don't work in the same domain.
Yeah,
It's
great call
happened
out.
you're lucky enough to be in the same domain, same company, so you kind of have a better understanding of each other roles. But I feel like this is a general kind of advice that can carry on to a lot of different individuals, whether even they're working or not. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
No, our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course. And with that, again, we thank you both so much for agreeing to be part of this Valentine's, I'm gonna call it, episode. And we look forward on having you back once you kind of open up that wine bar.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe we're talking when you maybe pop out a kid, like, oh, this is exciting. Family values on V-Day. Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you both so much. Yeah, super, super grateful for you to join us and sharing your journey with us. We're really looking forward to hearing the next adventures that you're going to be going on, and we know they'll be beautiful and wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Naser.
Thank you both. This has been fun.
Okay, that was another mind-blowing podcast. I'm certainly going to be re-listening to this one, especially around the fact that not only are they our colleagues, but it was such an inspiring story. Wow.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have a lot of takeaways, but I would love to hear what was kind of the big takeaway for you, maybe something fun and interesting you learned. Just would love to hear what you have, because that was incredible.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest takeaway, which I think a lot of people tend to forget, is that you never know where you're going to run into your significant other. It could be when you are running a trip to the grocery store. It could be when you are actually working. So keep the possibilities open. That does not mean to go in and ask everyone to be your significant other, but it just gives you hope that you never know what's going to happen, and you never know the people that you're going to be meeting and the impact that they're going to have on your life. I mean, we've heard their story, how they met. Both of them lived in different countries. Both of them kind of made it work, and they navigated that change, and now they relocated into a fantastic area. They've kind of cultivated their hobbies together, which is incredible. So this is kind of like a message of hope. Always kind of be hopeful that you are going to run into someone who might turn into your significant other or your friend or your colleague. Even the call out that Eric had about how he basically have had his jobs basically from the word of mouth. So this is another thing that we can keep in mind. The world is really filled with hopes and opportunities, and we just gotta be open to them and be willing to receive these opportunities and these gifts that the universe is kind of providing us.
Well said. I feel like you said everything I was going to say and more. That's exactly really how I feel about, this very specific episode and just the overall consensus of relationships, right? I
Yes.
think we have to have those healthy boundaries, which, Geeta and Eric had mentioned. And that's really that's what gave them the success, both on the
Yes.
personal and professional aspirations that they had as they continue this
Absolutely.
beautiful adventure. I thought it was also, just for me, the most impactful and exciting news was, potentially children, right? And just like
Yes.
we talked about it, it's such an empowering thing, but now they're communicating that love language, right? Learning how to express love and communicate their needs, and also
Mhm.
bringing a life into this world, right? And
Yes.
so that's something that, I deeply respect and
Mhm.
really appreciated how they shared each other's journeys and then how they came
Absolutely.
together as kind of that power of the platform couple, right? As I mentioned,
Yes.
right? Because I really feel that. I feel like they have these date nights, but even with the space between them, different countries, they made time to make it all work. They
Yeah.
revisited goals, and
Yes.
regardless of life circumstances, they made drastic changes because
Mhm.
that love was strong to
Yes.
lead them into areas that were risky, but still having that additional security, not only from service now, but from friends and family and relatives. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, just an incredible episode, and
Yes.
really looking forward to having them on in maybe a few months, end of the year recap, see where they are.
Yeah. See where the wine bar is.
Yeah, exactly, right? Going on that big trip,
Yeah.
and wine tasting. So just really, really grateful to have had Geeta and Eric on. Thank you again so much.
Yes. Thank you,
Hopefully they're
guys.
listening
That was
again.
a
But
fantastic, honestly,
yeah,
episode.
just so well spoken, and really glad that they were able to join us and trust us with such
Yes.
a wonderful episode. So really thank you again for sharing. Nazar,
Absolutely.
go ahead and close us out. Any last words for our listeners?
I would say happy Valentine's for those who are celebrating, and
Yes.
happy Valentine's for those who aren't. Love is in the air, so let's absorb it.
Oof,
We
love it.
always have people to love, whether they were our partners, our friends, our pets, our plants. There's always an
Yes.
outlet, a healthy outlet for love. So let's take advantage of that and let's enjoy it and let's even love ourselves.
Oh, I love that. Love it. Love ourselves. That's the
Yeah.
message here from the Now at Night podcast. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and we'll see
Thanks,
everyone
everyone.
really, really soon. Cheers.
See you next month.